Ladies and gentlemen, we all want to be seen, to be valued, and to be loved not for the masks we wear, but for the people we truly are. And yet, so many of us find ourselves stuck in relationships, friendships, or environments where we feel overlooked, underappreciated, or misunderstood. Vulnerability is the heartbeat of human connection. It's the invisible thread that binds us together, not because we are perfect, but because we are willing to be seen as we truly are. So often, we're taught to equate vulnerability with weakness, to hide our struggles, fears, and imperfections behind a facade of strength and control. But here's the paradox: the very thing we fear exposing our vulnerability is what allows us to forge the deepest and most authentic relationships. Think about a time when someone shared something raw and real with you. Maybe it was a friend confiding in you about a heartbreak, a colleague admitting they were overwhelmed, or a loved one revealing a dream they were too scared to pursue. How did that moment make you feel? Chances are it didn't make you see them as weaker. It made you feel closer to them. Their honesty gave you permission to let your guard down too. That's the power of vulnerability. It builds trust, empathy, and intimacy in ways that nothing else can. Yet embracing vulnerability is one of the hardest things we can do. Why? Because it requires us to let go of control and open ourselves up to the possibility of rejection, judgment, or failure. It means saying, "This is me, flaws and all," and trusting that we are enough even if others don't affirm it. It's terrifying, but it's also transformative. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for others to do the same. We become the first domino in a chain reaction of authenticity. Vulnerability says, "I'm willing to take off my armor so that we can meet in a place of truth." It breaks down the walls of pretense and lets the light of connection shine through. But let's be clear, vulnerability isn't oversharing or unloading everything onto everyone. It's about discernment. It's about choosing to show up authentically in moments that matter with people who have earned the right to see us at our most real. It's about saying, "I'm struggling, I don't know," or "I need help," and trusting that those words are not a sign of weakness, but of courage. In relationships, vulnerability is the foundation of intimacy. Without it, we can't fully love or be loved. We might present a perfect version of ourselves, but that version is a mask. True connection requires us to drop the act and risk being seen messy, imperfect, and beautifully human. It's the only way to build relationships that are real and lasting. In leadership, vulnerability fosters trust and inspires loyalty. A leader who admits their mistakes, acknowledges their fears, and seeks input from others is a leader who earns respect. They create a culture where it's safe to take risks, ask questions, and innovate. Vulnerability in leadership doesn't diminish authority, it amplifies it by showing that strength and humility can coexist. And within ourselves, vulnerability is the key to growth. When we resist being vulnerable, we stay stuck in our comfort zones, afraid to try new things or confront our deepest truths. But when we lean into vulnerability, we open ourselves to transformation. We give ourselves permission to fail, to learn, and to rise stronger than before. Vulnerability is not a one-time act, it's a practice. It's choosing moment by moment to show up fully, even when it's uncomfortable. It's an act of bravery that says, "I value connection more than I fear rejection. I value authenticity more than I fear judgment. I value growth more than I fear failure." Authenticity is the quality that draws people to you in a way that no amount of effort, pretense, or posturing ever can. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are and choosing to show up as that person, regardless of external expectations. Authenticity isn't about being perfect or having it all together, it's about being real. It's about embracing the messy, imperfect, and often unpredictable aspects of life and finding the courage to live in alignment with your truth. In a world saturated with carefully curated images, polished personas, and endless filters, both literal and figurative authenticity has become a rare and precious quality. It's the breath of fresh air that cuts through the noise, reminding us of what it means to be human. Authentic people don't demand attention, they attract it effortlessly because they radiate a kind of energy that feels genuine and trustworthy. There's no guessing with them, no sense of having to decode their motives or intentions. What you see is what you get, and that kind of transparency is a relief in a world where so much feels uncertain or staged. Being authentic doesn't mean you have to share every thought, feeling, or opinion that crosses your mind. It doesn't mean you never adapt or compromise. Instead, authenticity is about alignment. It's about ensuring that your values, words, and actions are in harmony. It's about saying what you mean and meaning what you say, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. It's about knowing your boundaries and respecting them, as well as honoring the boundaries of others. Authenticity has a profound impact on relationships. When you show up as your true self, you give others permission to do the same. You create a space where honesty thrives, where vulnerability feels safe, and where connections deepen. Think about the people in your life who feel the most real to you. They're likely the ones who don't try to impress you, who don't hide their flaws, and who don't pretend to be something they're not. Their authenticity makes them approachable, relatable, and magnetic. But authenticity isn't just about how others perceive you, it's about how you perceive yourself. When you live authentically, you free yourself from the exhausting and impossible task of trying to be everything to everyone. You let go of the need for constant approval or validation because you know that your worth isn't determined by others. You can stand firmly in who you are, flaws and all, and know that you are enough. Of course, living authentically isn't always easy. It requires self-awareness, courage, and a willingness to face the parts of yourself that you might prefer to ignore or hide. It asks you to be honest about your strengths and your struggles, your dreams and your fears, your successes and your failures. It demands that you make peace with imperfection, not just in yourself, but in the world around you. There will always be pressure to conform, to fit in, to mold yourself into what others expect or want you to be. But every time you choose to sacrifice authenticity for acceptance, you distance yourself from the very thing that makes you unique. You lose the opportunity to show the world what only you can offer. And you rob yourself of the chance to be truly seen and understood. Authenticity also requires resilience because it will not always be met with acceptance or approval. When you show up as your true self, some people might not like what they see. They might challenge you, misunderstand you, or reject you. But the beauty of authenticity is that it filters your world. The people who are meant to be in your life, the opportunities that align with your purpose, and the paths that lead to your growth will all be drawn to you when you stand in your truth. Moreover, authenticity doesn't mean you never change. It's not about staying the same or being rigid in your identity. On the contrary, authenticity allows for evolution. It's about being true to who you are in the moment, even as you grow and adapt. It's about recognizing that change doesn't make you less authentic, it makes you human. Authenticity also has a ripple effect. When you embrace your own truth, you inspire others to do the same. You create a culture of honesty where people feel empowered to share their ideas, express their feelings, and take risks without fear of judgment. Whether it's in your personal relationships, your workplace, or your community, your authenticity can become a catalyst for positive change. When research meets relatability, something powerful happens. Complex ideas become accessible. Intimidating concepts feel approachable, and abstract theories transform into tools we can use to navigate our everyday lives. Research is the foundation that gives credibility and depth to our understanding of the world, but relatability is the bridge that connects that understanding to real people, their stories, and their lived experiences. Too often, research is presented in ways that feel distant, cold, or impersonal. Academic papers, dense data sets, and jargon-heavy explanations can alienate those who might benefit most from the insights they contain. But when research is woven into relatable narratives, it becomes a force for connection and transformation. It becomes something we can see ourselves in, something we can apply to our own lives. Imagine hearing about a groundbreaking study on resilience. If it's presented only through statistics, percentages, sample sizes, and regression models, it might sound impressive, but it's unlikely to move you. Now, imagine that same research framed through a story about a single parent who, despite losing their job and facing numerous challenges, finds a way to rebuild their life and thrive. Suddenly, the data has a face, a name, and a heartbeat. It's no longer just numbers, it's an illustration of human strength and the principles of resilience in action. This is why relatability is essential. It brings research to life by anchoring it in the everyday realities of the human experience. It invites people to see themselves in the findings, to recognize their own struggles, triumphs, and possibilities within the context of the evidence. It transforms abstract concepts into tools people can use to improve their lives and relationships. Relatability doesn't dilute the value of research, it amplifies it. When an idea is made accessible and understandable, it has the power to reach a broader audience and create meaningful change. Take, for example, the field of psychology. Decades of research on topics like emotional intelligence, attachment styles, and mindfulness could have remained confined to academic circles. But when these ideas are shared through relatable examples, like stories of overcoming heartbreak or finding balance in a chaotic world, they resonate. They help people make sense of their own experiences and offer practical steps for growth. But creating that connection between research and relatability takes intention and skill. It requires the ability to translate complex findings into language that feels approachable without losing the integrity of the data. It's about meeting people where they are, understanding their needs and challenges, and offering insights that feel both relevant and actionable. Consider the role of storytelling in this process. A story is one of the most powerful tools for making research relatable. It engages our emotions, stimulates our imagination, and helps us remember information more effectively. When you hear a story about someone who applied a scientific principle to overcome adversity or achieve a goal, the research becomes more than just knowledge, it becomes a source of hope and inspiration. But relatability isn't just about telling stories, it's also about creating dialogue. It's about inviting people into the conversation, encouraging them to ask questions, and validating their experiences. And when research is presented as something that can be explored together rather than as a lecture to be passively received, it empowers people to take ownership of their learning. It helps them see how the insights can apply to their own unique circumstances. Relatability also acknowledges the diversity of human experiences. Not everyone will connect with the same example or find relevance in the same story. That's why it's important to share a range of perspectives and highlight the universality of certain truths while respecting the nuances of individual differences. When people see that research accounts for the complexities of life, they're more likely to trust it and engage with it. Finally, research meets relatability through empathy. It's about recognizing that behind every study, statistic, or finding is a desire to understand and improve the human condition. When we approach research with empathy, we remember that it's not just about numbers or theories, it's about people. It's about addressing their pain points, answering their questions, and helping them live better, fuller lives. Challenging perspectives is one of the most transformative things we can do for ourselves and others. It's the act of stepping outside the familiar boundaries of what we think we know and daring to see the world through a different lens. It's about questioning assumptions, confronting biases, and exploring possibilities that might feel uncomfortable or even impossible at first. We often cling to our perspectives because they provide a sense of security and certainty. They're shaped by our upbringing, culture, personal experiences, and the narratives we've absorbed over time. While these perspectives help us navigate the world, they can also become limitations. They can create blind spots, reinforce stereotypes, and prevent us from growing or understanding others. To challenge perspectives, we first need to cultivate curiosity. Curiosity is the antidote to rigidity. It opens the door to exploration and learning. When we approach life with a curious mind, we're more willing to ask questions like, what if I'm wrong? Or what might I be missing? These questions aren't a sign of doubt or weakness, they're a sign of strength and openness. They show a willingness to evolve and adapt. One of the most powerful ways to challenge perspectives is through exposure to diverse experiences and viewpoints. When we engage with people whose lives, beliefs, and values differ from our own, we're forced to confront the limitations of our worldview. This doesn't mean we have to agree with everyone we encounter, but it does mean we can learn to appreciate the complexity of human experience. We can start to see that there's rarely one right way to think, live, or approach a problem. Consider the role of stories in shifting perspectives. Stories have the power to transport us into the lives of others, helping us understand emotions, struggles, and dreams that might otherwise feel foreign. When we hear someone's story, whether it's about overcoming adversity, questioning societal norms, or breaking free from limiting beliefs, it challenges us to reflect on our own assumptions. It forces us to ask, what would I have done in their situation? What can I learn from their journey? Challenging perspectives also requires a willingness to embrace discomfort. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens when we're willing to sit with the unease of realizing that what we've always believed might not be entirely accurate or complete. It's in those moments of discomfort that we find the seeds of transformation. We begin to see that changing our minds isn't a betrayal of who we are, it's a natural part of becoming who we're meant to be. At the same time, challenging perspectives doesn't mean abandoning your core values or beliefs. It's not about becoming unmoored or indecisive. Instead, it's about refining your understanding of the world. It's about holding space for complexity and contradiction, recognizing that two seemingly opposing ideas can coexist, and understanding that truth is often multifaceted. This process isn't just personal, it's also essential for creating a more inclusive and empathetic society. When we challenge perspectives on a collective level, we break down barriers of ignorance and prejudice. We create spaces where dialogue can thrive, where people can feel seen and heard, and where solutions to shared problems can emerge. In leadership, the ability to challenge perspectives is particularly important. A great leader doesn't just stick to what's familiar or comfortable, they encourage their team to think differently, to question the status quo, and to innovate. They understand that the best ideas often come from challenging assumptions and considering alternative viewpoints. But challenging perspectives isn't always easy. It can feel threatening to question deeply held beliefs, especially when those beliefs are tied to our identity or sense of belonging. It can feel risky to voice a dissenting opinion or to admit that we don't have all the answers. Yet it's precisely this willingness to take risks and embrace uncertainty that leads to growth. When we challenge perspectives, we're not just expanding our understanding of the world, we're also expanding our understanding of ourselves. We discover strengths, insights, and possibilities we didn't know we had. We learn to navigate complexity with grace and to approach differences with compassion. We become more resilient, adaptable, and open to the beauty of change. Storytelling is one of the oldest and most powerful tools we have for communication. Long before data was tracked, charts were drawn, or books were written, stories were the way people passed down knowledge, shared experiences, and made sense of the world around them. They are woven into the fabric of human connection, serving as bridges between ideas, emotions, and people. Incorporating storytelling into any form of communication transforms it from a simple exchange of information into a profound experience that resonates on a deeper level. A well-told story has the ability to captivate an audience, regardless of the subject matter. Why? Because stories engage the whole person. They connect with our emotions, stimulate our imagination, and engage our memory in ways that facts and figures alone cannot. Stories bypass the analytical filters of the brain and go straight to the heart, making the message feel personal and relatable. They don't just inform us, they make us feel, reflect, and act. When you incorporate storytelling, you're not just conveying information, you're creating an experience. You're inviting your audience to step into a different world, to see through someone else's eyes, and to walk in their shoes. Whether you're telling a story about triumph, failure, love, or loss, it becomes a mirror for the audience, reflecting their own hopes, fears, and struggles. A great story doesn't just entertain, it transforms the listener by sparking recognition and empathy. The beauty of storytelling lies in its universality. Everyone has a story to tell, and everyone loves to hear a good story. It transcends boundaries of culture, language, and background, creating a shared human experience. But what makes a story truly impactful isn't just its content, it's the way it's told. A good storyteller knows how to draw the audience in, using vivid imagery, rich details, and a clear narrative arc. They know how to pace the story, when to build tension, and when to release it. They understand the power of silence and the weight of a well-chosen word. Incorporating storytelling isn't just about recounting events, it's about weaving meaning into those events. It's about showing, not just telling. A storyteller doesn't simply say, "It was a tough time." They paint a picture: the clock struck midnight, and the room was so quiet I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat. The stack of bills on the table seemed to grow taller every time I looked at it, and the weight of uncertainty felt like a stone pressing against my chest. With this level of detail, the audience can feel the struggle, not just hear about it. Storytelling also humanizes even the most abstract ideas. Imagine you're discussing a concept like resilience. Instead of listing the traits of resilient people or quoting statistics about how resilience improves outcomes, you tell the story of a young girl who overcame immense challenges to achieve her dreams. You describe her determination, her setbacks, her small victories, and her ultimate triumph. Suddenly, resilience isn't just an abstract concept, it's a living, breathing example that the audience can relate to and remember. Stories are also powerful because they help us make sense of complexity. Life is rarely straightforward, and people often struggle to connect the dots between seemingly unrelated ideas or events. A story provides a framework for understanding. It simplifies without oversimplifying, offering clarity while preserving depth. A story can take a complicated process like how innovation happens and break it down into a narrative about one inventor's journey, complete with moments of inspiration, failure, and discovery. In professional settings, storytelling can be the difference between a forgettable presentation and one that leaves a lasting impression. A leader who shares a personal story about their own challenges or growth can inspire their team far more than a list of directives or a slideshow of bullet points. In marketing, a brand that tells a compelling story about its origins or values can create an emotional connection with customers that goes far beyond the product itself. Even in data-driven fields, a story about the real-life impact of those numbers can turn raw data into something meaningful and actionable. Incorporating storytelling also makes the message more memorable. Studies show that people are far more likely to remember information when it's presented in the context of a story. I think about the stories that have stayed with you over the years, ones you heard as a child, ones that shaped your understanding of the world, or ones that moved you deeply. Chances are you don't just remember the events of those stories, you remember how they made you feel. But storytelling isn't just about grand tales or dramatic events. Some of the most powerful stories are simple, everyday moments that reveal universal truths. It could be a conversation with a stranger that shifted your perspective, a small act of kindness that restored your faith in humanity, or a personal failure that taught you resilience. These stories resonate because they reflect the shared experiences of being human. When you incorporate storytelling into your communication, you build a connection with your audience that goes beyond the surface. You create a sense of trust and authenticity, showing that you're not just speaking at them, you're speaking with them. You're sharing something real, something that matters, something that has the power to change minds and hearts. A call to action is more than just a closing remark. It's an invitation to take the insights, emotions, or inspiration stirred during a conversation or presentation and turn them into meaningful action. It is the bridge between listening and doing, between understanding and change. When you leave a call to action, you are not merely finishing a dialogue, you are opening the door to transformation, both individually and collectively. A powerful call to action stems from clarity of purpose. It requires a deep understanding of what you want to achieve and why it matters. Whether you are inspiring an audience to reflect on their personal growth, encouraging a team to embrace innovation, or mobilizing a community around a shared goal, your call to action must be rooted in authenticity and relevance. It should resonate with the values and aspirations of those you are addressing, aligning with their needs and their potential. To craft an effective call to action, specificity is key. Vague or generalized appeals may sound motivational, but they lack the focus needed to ignite real change. Instead of saying, let's make a difference, guide your audience with actionable steps they can take. For example, if you're encouraging people to support a cause, outline how they can donate, volunteer, or advocate. If you're motivating a team to improve performance, specify the goals they should aim for and the steps they can take to get there. Specificity transforms inspiration into a roadmap, empowering people to act with confidence and direction. A call to action should also evoke a sense of urgency. The longer someone waits to act, the less likely they are to follow through. By emphasizing why the action matters now, whether it's to seize an opportunity, prevent a loss, or meet a critical need, you create a sense of momentum. However, urgency doesn't mean pressure. It means painting a clear picture of the stakes involved and inspiring a commitment to act while the motivation is fresh. Emotion is another essential element of a compelling call to action. People are moved to act when they feel a connection to the cause, the vision, or the outcome. Use language that evokes emotions like hope, determination, and empowerment. Share stories or examples that illustrate the impact of taking action. For instance, instead of simply stating that donations will help provide clean water, describe how a single well transformed a village, bringing health and opportunity to families. Our emotion turns abstract ideas into tangible realities that people can feel and want to contribute to. Tailoring your call to action to your audience is crucial. Different people are motivated by different factors, and the more you understand your audience, the more effectively you can appeal to them. For a group driven by social justice, your call to action might highlight the collective good. For a business team focused on growth, you might frame the action in terms of achieving measurable results. Speak to their values, priorities, and challenges, showing how the action aligns with what matters most to them. Simplicity is also vital. A call to action that is too complex or demanding can deter people rather than inspire them. Make the first step as easy and accessible as possible. If the action involves multiple steps, break them down into manageable pieces so people don't feel overwhelmed. A small, achievable action is often the catalyst for larger commitments. Once someone takes that first step, they're more likely to stay engaged and follow through on subsequent steps. Another important aspect of leaving a call to action is accountability. People are more likely to act when they know their efforts will be acknowledged and their contributions will make a difference. Offer ways for them to see the impact of their actions, whether it's through updates, feedback, or tangible results. If possible, create opportunities for them to share their progress or experiences with others, fostering a sense of community and shared purpose. Incorporating inspiration and motivation into your call to action is equally essential. It's not enough to outline what needs to be done. You must also inspire people to believe in the possibility of success. Remind them of their potential, their power to create change, and the significance of their role in the bigger picture. Speak to their aspirations and their ability to make a difference, no matter how small the step may seem. A call to action should also leave room for reflection and ownership. While guidance is important, people are more invested in actions they feel they've chosen for themselves. Encourage your audience to think about how the action aligns with their personal goals, values, and abilities. By framing the call to action as an opportunity rather than a directive, you foster a sense of agency and empowerment. Finally, repetition and reinforcement can enhance the effectiveness of your call to action. People often need to hear a message multiple times before they fully absorb it or feel compelled to act. Reinforce the action through follow-up communications, reminders, or additional resources that help sustain the momentum. By keeping the call to action front and center, you ensure that it remains a priority. In a world that often feels fragmented and disconnected, the ability to lead with authenticity, vulnerability, and a willingness to challenge perspectives has never been more important. By embracing these principles and weaving them together with the art of storytelling and actionable purpose, we unlock the potential to not only inspire transformation, but to create lasting, meaningful change in the lives of those around us. Authenticity becomes our foundation, allowing us to show up as our truest selves and foster trust in every interaction. Vulnerability becomes our bridge, connecting us through shared humanity and paving the way for deeper understanding. By challenging perspectives, we push the boundaries of what's possible, opening ourselves to new ideas, new solutions, and new ways of being. And when we incorporate storytelling into our message, we infuse it with life, making even the most complex ideas accessible and unforgettable. But none of this is complete without a call to action, a moment where inspiration transforms into empowerment, where words are turned into deeds, and where every individual feels not only the possibility of change, but the responsibility to make it happen. So as we close this conversation, reflect on the power you hold to embody these principles. Recognize the impact you can have by leading with authenticity, sharing your stories, embracing vulnerability, and being bold enough to challenge your own and others' perspectives. And most importantly, ask yourself, what is the action you will take to bring this vision to life? How will you step forward to create the change you want to see? This is not just a challenge, it's an invitation, a call to lead, to connect, and to transform. The time to begin is now.